Has it really been 2 years? This is a question you're going to ask yourself when you first play Arkham City. Has it really been 2 years since Arkham Asylum arrived? It's really hard to believe it is. And due to the amount of effort and quality that Arkham City has been put in, it's almost impossible to believe that it's only been 2 years. Rocksteady's only really taken that amount of time to really make the sequel like this. I'm going to tell you exactly why I say that. Okay, let's start with the gameplay. In the first game, the gameplay started off deceivingly simple. You could punch, dodge, crawl, jump, and do everything that came with it. As the game progressed, you encountered new situations that required you to raise your game and think of new ways to outsmart your enemies. You were also given a large additional number of gadgets and tools at your disposal. You couldn't be further from how Arkham City runs it. You were thrown straight into the brutal, harsh city, and after a couple of lengthy cutscenes and gameplay mechanics, you're free to step outside into the world, smelling a bated breath. You simply cannot begin to imagine the possibilities that arise. You will get an unbelievable amount of gadgets and equipment unseen in Arkham's Asylum. Without spoiling too much, you'll need to analyze the location of a sniper, for instance. You'll need to have to scan the area for evidence, such as a bullet entry into a window pane, the place where the bullet hit the ground, the angle of degrees, etc. It's not exactly the sort of quality forensics that you get in TV shows such as Bones, however, but you still feel like a world-class detective or a forensic analyst. And with these incredible gadgets at your disposal, you have an amazing sense of power and strength. You're Batman, remember? You'll encounter hundreds of situations where you'll need to mix up your abilities in a completely new way. In a certain boss encounter, which I'd rather not speak of for the sake of spoilers, you'll have a sensor scope added to your arsenal, which is essential to your survival. You will constantly need to be on the move and out of the sight lest you come into visual contact with your nemesis. You will constantly need to change your strategies every single time, and as you execute the plan of attack, the villain will automatically adjust the situation so that you can never use that move again. It constantly keeps you on edge and makes you extremely aware of your enemies. Unlike in Arkham Asylum, you will no longer be able to simply attack, counter, dodge, hide, rise, and repeat. In fact, a lot of the time you will be unable to complete this challenge or beat this villain, and you will have to acquire a certain gadget or skill. This is extremely frequent in the Riddles case in particular. As you continuously fail to solve this death trap, you'll be bitterly forced to admit that the riddle is currently unsolvable, and you'll have to admit temporary defeat. In smaller instances, for example, when you're faced with a bunch of dim-witted thugs who fool themselves into thinking they can take Batman on, you'll need to use a sheer amount of variety of moves and combos to take your foes down. This time, you will be up against thugs with knives, shields, and armor, forcing you to add additional moves to your combos. This is extremely effective, and more importantly, it's unique. With nearly every encounter, you'll find that you need to raise your game in some way. As you take down a room with thugs cradling machine guns and rescue the hostage, you'll wonder what's inevitably in the next door, ahead of you. As hard as you may try, nothing will prepare you for what waits behind the next door. There's a constant surprise at nearly every turn. Maybe thugs will have goggles that allow them to see in the dark. Maybe you'll have a frequency jammer that prevents you from using detective vision mode. It's a constant change of pace, and Arkham City finds a balance between overwhelming or underwhelming you. But there are a tiny amount of complaints, however. Batman still walks around a tad stiffly, and he'll often jump instead of run more times than you'd like. Your remote-controlled batarang should require some sort of special license before you can use it, and it's harder than wrestling with the wheel of a spinning car. These tiny complaints do almost nothing to deter you from Arkham City's brilliance. The fights will challenge you dramatically more than in the first game. Riddler challenges are extremely sophisticated and shrouded in complexity. The variety has gone a massive underhaul, and everything is handcrafted brilliantly. Moving on to the single player, I'm going to ask you guys this to start with. How much content did you get of Arkham Asylum? How many hours did it manage to captivate your imagination and attention for? One thing we can all agree on, whilst it had a fair amount of content, it just wasn't enough to quench our thirst. It's been 2 years, but now Rocksteady have given us more than we could possibly ever want. Now, about the story. At the start of the game, you'll see Bruce Wayne being captured and taken to Arkham City by Hugo Strange, the manager of Arkham City, a place where all the criminals are set free in the streets. There wasn't possibly enough room in Arkham Asylum for all of them, so a whole section of Gotham has been sectioned off to house these madmen. There's one rule inside these walls and one rule only: don't break out. But nobody said anything about breaking in. Soon it becomes apparent that Bruce Wayne had planned to get inside Arkham City from the start. He now realizes that something extremely sinister is going on inside, and now he's trapped with thousands of lunatics that all bang for his blood. The general gist is that Hugo Strange has built this place with the help of several people, all of them who were instantly thrown inside the second they were finished of being any use. Now Hugo Strange is working on a strange project, funnily enough, calling it Protocol 10. Without letting too many spoilers out, in Arkham City, all the major villains, Penguin, Joker, Two-Face, etc., all struggling for dominance and do anything to get it. These characters aren't fleshed out as enough as they could be, but it's still a welcome that we get so many villains here. And whilst the hate of Batman does distract them from hunting him down, you'll get a constant feeling of being stuck in a raging, bloody war. The story lasts twice as long as the first one, and is better in nearly every way. Even better, you'll come across a staggering amount of side missions and challenges to complete. The Riddler has over 400 riddles and challenges and riddles for you to solve, and these don't involve merely fighting little green trophies and events. These involve wrapping your brain around extremely complex and deadly traps and snares. Even snagging a single Riddler trophy will prove to be a challenge, as you'll need to solve difficult puzzles to get to them. In other instances, you'll be drawn into an area that seems not to be so difficult, but then just as you think you've succeeded, the door will seal behind you. Some hidden trap will send you off to death, as the last thing you hear is the Riddler's hysterical laugh. The Riddler has also set up an image-based riddles for you to conjure up the solution to. You'll be given a cryptic clue and then left to your own intellect to find the answer. Sometimes the solution will be a pun on words or a poster, or it may be a question mark that you need to line from an extremely specific point of view. The sweetest treat on the table, though, are the hostages that you need to save from the Riddler's clutches. The Riddler has decided to take on the role of Jigsaw, and the challenge of rescuing these hostages is rewarding, unique, and tricky. With so many riddles for you to solve, you may be wondering if, like in the first game, you'll need to use Detective Vision mode for nearly the entire time. You'll be happy to know that this time around you'll need to use it occasionally, but it's a lot less incentive to do so, and this is a good thing considering how large the city is. The last thing you want is to miss out on how spectacular some of the views are. And an additional reason why this is so is because a lot of the challenges are involved finding the riddle. A lot of the challenges involved solving the riddle, not always finding it. The team of Rocksteady humbly listened to this complaint in the first game and fixed it in the best way they could, while giving us even more to sink our teeth into. There's a lot more than merely riddles to keep you occupied in Arkham City apart from the main story, however. You'll track a sniper using his bullets, you'll find a lead to a sadistic killer, you'll track a madman from the first game with a telephone, and you'll solve puzzles from a lonely soul with a calendar and fetish, and more that don't even want to spoil for you. There are random street fights, objects to be found, and a massive amount of content on a staggering scale. On top of that, you have more than 50 challenge rooms to test your skills in. Rocksteady has already released DLC for the game, and there will be even more to come in the future. Thanks to this lavish amount of content, the original game now appears to be a demo where you compare it and contrast to the two. There's something new to be found at every street of the morbid city, and discovering everything will provide you with more satisfaction than you'd ever think possible. Arkham Asylum set a fantastic benchmark in pacing. That benchmark has been raised in the most richly and brilliantly crafted environments ever seen in a game, and as you move from one objective to the next, you'll truly feel like Batman. This is the job for a pure superhero, and is tremendously atmospheric adventure. You'll be able to say, "I am Batman," and believe it. The limits between fantasy and reality have been extended. There is a slight downside to this, however. Arkham City technically is an open world, and even though it may seem to be at first, what it lacks in scale it makes up in style. Flying through the city, scouring the streets for side missions, situations of interest is enough to play Arkham City alone. Rocksteady gave us a fair amount of content in the first game, but this outstanding sequel will do so much more than merely satisfy our hunger. It'll keep on giving until there's no more choice if we want ever again. And the level of how spectacular Arkham City is, that could possibly not happen. Arkham City is deeply rich with color along with artistic and technical excellence. But comparing to the first game, the textures look crisper, the facial expressions and character models are more believable and lifelike, and the lighting is some of the best I've ever seen. This city is meticulously crafted, as if every building, every sign, and every psychopathic slogan is paced perfectly and is exactly where it belongs. This achievement has been polished with obvious loving care and attention to detail. The audio also fares well. The soundtrack is brilliant and constantly changes throughout the campaign and situation, going to the off-putting sounds of prisoners screeching and replaced with clever, witty dialogue. The ominous paging throughout the game constantly reminds you of the sadistic nature of your enemies, as well as bringing a smile to your face. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill return yet again for their roles as Batman and the Joker, and just as you expected, their performance is on top notch, as good as it could possibly be. The performances of the Penguin, Harley Quinn, Two-Face, and more were all flawless and suit each character brilliantly. Even minor characters such as the thugs and prisoners of Arkham City are still providing top-notch acting and witty, believable dialogue. Now, where the trophies are concerned, Rocksteady thought they're possibly going a little too soft from us, so they've knocked up the difficulty level dramatically. Hundreds of challenge medals, nearly 1,000 riddles, multiple playthroughs, and the completion of all side missions will take a lot of time, effort, and skill. It's excessively harder than Arkham Asylum was, so be warned for a challenge. The trophies aren't impossible though, and it's one of those platinums you'll enjoy going for through all your heart. My closing thoughts are that within a few short hours, you'll realize the sheer size and scale of this game. You'll come to realize that this just isn't one of the greatest superhero games of all time. It's one of the best games of all time. It's hard to imagine a superhero game being any better. This is a ready candidate for Game of the Year and is a title that simply cannot be missed. It's going to get 10 out of 10 from this channel, and I really think that there's absolutely no excuse and there's absolutely no reason why anyone who owns a Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3 should not go out in the street, go to the shelves and buy this game right now. If you do miss out on this game, then I have to say that the joke's on you.